Welcome to your community. This is your hometown. This is Walton Entertainment. This is where you can hear from the community and those making a difference. We explore topics, local festivals, arts and entertainment, and local news. For this program and much more, visit us online at yourlocalstream.com. That's yourlocalstream.com.
Hi there. Today we're going to read Mouse Paint by Ellen Stoll Walsh. This is one of my favorite books. Let's read. Once there were 3 white mice on a white piece of paper. The cat couldn't find them. One day, while the cat was asleep, the mice saw 3 jars of paint. 1 red, 1 yellow, and 1 blue. They thought it was mouse paint. They climbed right in. Then 1 was red, 1 was yellow, and 1 was blue. They dripped puddles of paint onto the paper. The puddles looked like fun. The red mouse stepped into a yellow puddle and did a little dance. His red feet stirred the yellow puddle until... "Look!" he cried. "Red feet in a yellow puddle make orange." The yellow mouse hopped into a blue puddle. His feet mixed and stirred and stirred and mixed until... "Look down," said the red mouse and the blue mouse. "Yellow feet in a blue puddle make green." Then the blue mouse jumped into a red puddle. He splashed and mixed and danced until... "Purple!" they all shouted. "Blue feet in a red puddle make purple." But the paint on their fur got sticky and stiff, so they washed themselves down to a nice soft white. And painted the paper instead. They painted 1 part red and 1 part yellow. And 1 part blue. They mixed red and yellow to paint an orange part. Yellow and blue to paint a green part. And blue and red to paint a purple part. but they left some white because of the cat. The end. This book is called Sleep Like a Tiger. It was written by Mary Loge and illustrated by Pamela Zagorinsky. Let's read. Once there was a little girl who didn't want to go to sleep, even though the sun had gone away. She told her mother, "I'm not tired." She told her father, "I'm just not sleepy." They nodded their heads and said she didn't have to go to sleep, but she had to put her pajamas on. She picked out her favorite pajamas that matched the night sky. "I'm still wide awake," she announced. Her parents said that was fine, but she should wash her face and brush her teeth, so she did. It felt good to be nice and clean. Then, because she loved climbing into her bed, she did, stretching her toes down under the crisp sheets, lying as still as an otter floating in a stream. "Does everything in the world go to sleep?" she asked. "Yes," her parents told her. "Our dog is sleeping right now, curled up in a ball on the couch, where he's not supposed to be." "And the cat is fast asleep, stretched out in front of the fireplace, the warmest spot in the house." "What about bats?" she asked. "They don't sleep." "Not at night," her parents agreed, "but during the day they fold their wings, tuck their heads, and sleep hanging upside down in the safest place in the barn." "Do whales sleep?" she asked. "Yes, they swim slowly around and around in a large circle in the ocean and sleep." "Tiny snails?" she asked. "They curl up like a cinnamon roll inside their shell." "Even grizzly bears?" she asked. "Bears are mighty sleepers. They make a cozy den under the snow and sleep through the winter." "All winter? That's too long," she said. "Most animals just sleep through the night," her parents said, tucking her in. "I know an animal that sleeps a lot," the little girl told them. "What animal is that?" her parents asked. "The tiger in the jungle. When he's not hunting, he finds some shade, closes his eyes, and sleeps. That way he stays strong." Her parents nodded. Sleep is good for that. Then they kissed her, turned out the light, and stood in the doorway. I'm still not sleepy, she told them. We know, they agreed. You can stay awake all night long. They left her door open a crack. The little girl's bed was warm and cozy, a cocoon of sheets, a nest of blankets. Unlike the dog on the couch, she was right where she was supposed to be. She wiggled down under the covers until she found the warmest spot, like the cat in front of the fire. She folded her arms like the wings of a bat. She circled around like the whale. And the curled up snail. Then she snuggled deep as a bear, the deep sleeping bear. And like the strong tiger, fell fast asleep. The end. This book is You Nest Here With Me. It is by Jane Yolen and Heidi E.Y. Stemple. It's illustrated by Melissa Sweet. Let's read. You nest here with me. My little nestling, time for bed. Climb inside, you sleepy head. Like baby bird, your nest can be anywhere there's you and me. Pigeons nest on concrete ledges. Catbirds nest in greening hedges. Tiny wrens in shoreline sedges. You nest here with me. Grackles nest in high fir trees. Terns all nest in colonies upon high cliffs above rough seas, but you nest here with me. Some owls nest in oak tree boles, some down in abandoned holes. Hawks may nest on telephone poles, but you nest here with me. Coots nest low in cattail reeds. Sparrows' nests are full of weeds, plus tangled grasses, feathers, seeds. But you nest here with me. Swallows nest above barn doors. Plovers nest on sandy shores. Eagles nest upon high tors, but you nest here with me. Cowbird, the uninvited guest, leaves her egg in a foster nest, but you nest here with me. Killdeer, once their eggs are laid, perform a broken wing charade. The clutch can rest there unafraid as you nest here with me. Birds nest in trees, in sand, on stone, in colonies, or all alone. They nest in holes and under eaves, in barns, in reeds, on poles, in leaves. And safe inside, the nestlings grow while learning all they need to know. So till you're big as big can be, you'll nest right here in our house with me. And one interesting thing about this book, that's the end, they let you know about all the different birds we mentioned in this book and the back, so you can continue learning. That again was You Nest Here With Me by Jane Yolen and Heidi E.Y. Stemple. They wrote the book, and the beautiful pictures were illustrated by Melissa Sweet.
Creative artists can offer you a wide range of video production. Call the experts and discuss your project today, whether it's your special event or your company. Creative Artist, 770-267-7368. Creative Artist produces this program you're watching. Call Creative Artist today, 770-267-7368. Creative Artist, they'll put you in the spotlight.
A beautiful day in Cumming, Georgia for the 5th annual Independence Day 5K 10K.
We run a 10K every 4th of July, usually the Peachtree Road race,
Yep.
and it got moved, so we decided to run this one instead.
We've run every year since '97 on the 4th of July. So we were excited to have a race today that we could come and do.
We're doing the 10K.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, and we usually do the Peachtree, but with everything going on, we thought this looked like a whole lot of fun. So
Yeah.
we're excited to be here.
Yeah, we're absolutely excited
Yeah.
to be here. So.
Love the 4th of July. We want fireworks though, but but yep, we're looking for a good time.
People from all over, men, women, and children, came in town to run this race, put on by Fast Race Services.
All right, I'm going to give you a countdown. 3, 2, 1, go!
I like the new course. They took out a switchback and made a hill, so that was pretty nice. I love running this race. It's right in my hometown, so it's really nice. And I knew Adam really well and his dad, so it's always nice to come and support them this race.
It was fun, hilly, but it was a good race. It was really hot. Other than that, I had a good time.
It was hot, it was hilly. I felt like I was going both faster and slower than I was. The course was pretty cool. It was actually pretty scenic running next to the giant horse field, and then, the nice change of pace when you got to run through the hills and the suburbs and then back out to the horse fields. It was actually really cool.
I'm very tired. I'm from Brazil. I'm here for celebration for July independence. I'm so happy. I'm happy for America. Oh my God, very tired.
Oh, running is so important, and I like running, period, because I feel like it's one giant parallel to life. There are times where you just want to quit, but you just got to keep going. Left foot, right foot, just keep your eye on the prize, and I think that's really how it helps everyone. Devin does a great job putting on these races. Does a great job advertising for everyone. The course layouts are great. He always gets permission from the city. People just enjoy the courses overall.
This is Paul, and I've learned how to practice safe sacks.
We're right in the middle of summer, and that means it's time to get those portraits done. Summer portraits are so wonderful for families and for individuals. Whether it just be you or your family, it's time to book that summer photo session. Let me turn your summer moments into portrait art. Contact me today at 770-656-5794 or check me out on the web at darylproductions.com. You're watching Walton Entertainment.
And I thought it might be relevant to talk about COVID and how it's affected not only our national and state economy, but more specifically Walton County's economy. And we're all feeling it in different kind of ways. From state governments to local grocery stores, this whole COVID thing has really changed America and how we do business and interact with each other. And it seems to change more often than I would like. In the beginning, we didn't know a lot about how COVID would affect us personally. We thought it was just like the flu, and then we figured out maybe it's worse than that. We didn't know if we could transmit it to each other and how all that works out. So as we've gone into this month by month, it seems like things continue to change a little bit. And they tell us now the best thing we can do is socially distance and wear our masks, when we're out in public. But it's definitely affected our economies in a lot of different ways, specifically budget shortfalls. And we just recently saw the state of Georgia is going to be about $1 billion down in tax revenue. And that affects a lot of different people throughout the state. We don't yet know how it's going to affect our local Walton County economy in terms of sales tax, but we do know that they're going down. Some industries did quite well and are doing quite well during COVID. Some of our industries, not so much. But nationwide, the numbers seem to skew a little bit because some states have high numbers of COVID cases, had low job losses. And some states had high job losses with low COVID numbers. So why is that? Well, you got to look at, let's just take New York and Hawaii, for example. New York had 1,901 cases per 100,000 people. In Hawaii, they only had 46 per 100,000 people. But the difference between the two losses in terms of jobs was tremendous. And the numbers that we're seeing there was New York lost 8.6 jobs per confirmed case. And then Hawaii lost 232.4 jobs per case. Now, why do you think New York had the most numbers of cases? The density of the population, right? Obviously, that makes a lot of sense. Why do you think Hawaii lost the most jobs? Tourism. And it affected their economy more than it affected anything else. I mean, most other states. And in Georgia, we're a little bit better off than that. But I tell you, when it comes to Walton County, we had some industries hit really hard. I'll give you an example, Hitachi. They shut down for weeks, and then they slowly started coming back. They're still slowly coming back. They're not back to full speed. Walmart went crazy because people buying groceries, right? And they were buying more groceries than they ordinarily did. And so, and toilet paper, everything. People stocking up on stuff, right? I'm guilty of that. If I saw the paper towels in stock, I grabbed a pack. You know, it just, I'm sure we all did that in some way. But, you know, Walmart was hiring during the whole process. Across the street, they're struggling to keep alive. They were struggling to keep alive. So, Hitachi has been a great company for Walton County, provide a lot of jobs, a lot of tax investment. They didn't qualify for a single penny of federal assistance. Why? Foreign-owned company. So they didn't get nothing. So they struggled because the automobile industry went down. Nobody was buying cars. They make auto parts. They just couldn't sell the part. Today they're still struggling, even though they're coming back because of the federal assistance, the CARES Act. Employees can make more on unemployment, staying home, than they can make on their regular job. So guess what their vacancy rate is? Employees who just aren't coming back to work right now. 30%. 30% of their employees are choosing to stay home because they're still drawing an unemployment on top of the CARES Act. Why not? If you're in that situation, I get it. It may not be right.
What is the end date?
There's an end date that there is an end date. Congressman Heiss voted against the third round of this whole stimulus package. And I won't get into all the details and the politics behind that, but to say this, everything has a negative impact and a positive impact, and we certainly saw that through this whole COVID thing. In Georgia, specifically, we lost 32.8 jobs per COVID case. I want to talk a little bit about those numbers, those COVID numbers. I was on a conference call with Dr. Toomey. You've probably heard that name. She's with the state. She runs all of the Health and Human Services. This is where the numbers get a little skewed. And we've seen the COVID cases numbers going up drastically, right? They're counting every time somebody tests positive through a COVID, as a COVID case. They count that number as an additional person. The problem is a lot of those people who lost jobs and had COVID, they can't go back to work until they test negative for the COVID. So guess what's happening? They're testing
multiple times,
3 or 4 times before they can go back to work. So those COVID numbers aren't individuals, it's the number of tests of people testing positive. So you might test positive for 3 times or 4 times, and it counts that additional number. So what you really got to look at is the hospitalization and death numbers. Now, we are seeing an increase in hospitalizations, right? So, but not as drastically as the number of tested positive cases. So you really got to look at what the true effect is. You know, we may have a lot of people out there carrying the COVID and they don't even know it. They never even get tested, some do. But when you look at the hospitalizations and the death rates, those seem to be okay and not doing so bad. Now, in Georgia, at the end of May, we had about 10.7% unemployment, 1.9 million workers. Beginning of this year, we were below, you might have read it in the Walton Tribune, lowest unemployment ever that we on record. Now we're back up to over 10%. In Walton County, our highest point was only 8.5. So we're a little more recession-proof in Walton County because, we talked about it a little earlier, we're not quite so dependent on leisure and tourism. We just don't have a lot. We have people that come through and they might spend the night somewhere. Not many of our hotels. You know, we don't have natural parks and things that, you know, they come here to see and all that. So we don't have a lot of tourism dollars that come through. People might come to downtown Monroe, things like that, but not significant numbers of people go on vacation and stuff like that. So it helps to be a little more diversified in your economy. And we are very, very conscious of that at the Development Authority. We try not to recruit a single industry that does the same thing we already have. And that's because we want to protect our existing industry. And I always say this, it's always nice to get that next golden egg to put in your basket to say, we got this one. But if you're not protecting the ones you got already, then you might as well stop, because you have to do justice to those industries that you already have. And that's why many of our industries have expanded many times in our community, because we're here for business and we try to be pro-business. But let me go back over some of these job numbers. So in Georgia, construction, we lost 5.6%. I think that number is going to eventually go up. Manufacturing, 9.9%. Trade, transportation, and utilities, 4.4%. Financial industry, among the lowest, 5.4%. They still take our money, don't they? We try. Professional and business services, 10%. Education and health, 4.4%. Leisure and hospitality, mostly along the Georgia coast, 41.9%. And the lowest number of them all, not surprising, is local governments, 3.4%. They lost very few jobs during the COVID crisis. And because of that, we were a little lower than most private industry. So how has the COVID-19 affected economic development in Walton County? Well, it's affected us greatly. So when COVID-19 first hit, I was working with some really great companies. A large pharmaceutical manufacturer, a lithium battery manufacturer like the one that just went to Commerce Store, a microchip manufacturer, and an automotive manufacturer. Today, everything is silent. It's as dead as a door. Nothing is moving, nothing is happening for us in Walton County. So that doesn't mean we lost those companies. That just means those companies have put the brakes on any expansions that they may have for the future, with one exception. We did lose a really big one again. We have a trend of getting in the top 3 for some of these big automotive manufacturers and losing. Like we lost Toyota Mazda and Jaguar Land Rover, Mercedes-Benz. And just recently we lost to Austin, Texas, Tesla. We were among the top 3. It was between us, Nashville, and Austin, Texas. Now the sad part of that was on a Thursday, about I guess 4 or 5 months ago, the CEO tweeted, the car was going to the East Coast. We were much further east than Nashville, and certainly Austin, Texas. 4 hours later, 1 o'clock in the morning, he calls a management team meeting. Imagine that, working for that guy. And decides he's going to change his mind. And they're going to Austin. So in 4 hours, we won it and lost it. Just like that.
Sound like drinking.
What was the reason? Well, they don't ever tell you the reason. Something happened in those 4 hours that we had no control over, and we lost.
Big money came back from Texas.
And it must have been big, but I'll tell you this, their incentive package was just released, and we were extremely competitive on that. So I'm not sure what happened there. We were, if you compare apples to apples, we were ahead. So who knows? So anyway, it happens in my business. You never hold your breath because you just don't know, what could happen. But what we're also hearing from companies and site selectors, which most of them use today, they're the professionals that pick the top sites for those companies, that everything's gone virtual, right? Because nobody's flying. Some companies are still maybe looking, but they're not looking hard right now. So they want to see everything virtual. So we've had to switch the way we do business like that. And we're now creating virtual tours of our communities and our sites, our industrial sites. So we hope beginning next week, you'll be able to go on our website, pick an industrial property, visually tour that site virtually. You can click on an arrow and it moves you from Monroe down Spring Street, down to 78, 83, into our industrial park. Go on the site you want to look at, look around 360, click on an up arrow, it takes you to drone video so you can look down on the property. That's what they want to see today. And they're basing their decisions on that because nobody's traveling. So we got to be competitive. And we're hoping to be ahead of the game of most people on this. And I'm excited about what we're doing there. And it really is kind of cool technology for us to learn to do. But, you know, even though things are a little slow for us right now, traditionally during a presidential election, during the summer, things slow down a little bit. And I remember the past one greatly. Things started to slow down. And then after the election, it really picked up. And you all know we had the best economy that we've ever had in my lifetime, maybe ever. It was nothing to see a project that was in the hundreds of millions of dollars. I never saw projects that were in the billions of dollars. Fortunately, we won one of those. We won Facebook. Their investment over the next 18 years now is going to equal $42 billion down in social service. We saw other big automotive manufacturers in the billions of dollars. So those are big projects. And we're very fortunate to be able to get our hands on some of those. We haven't hooked that one yet in terms of automotive. I'm not sure in Georgia we're going to win one anyway. Competing states in the southeast are just beating our socks off of Georgia when it comes to those. So not only are they buying the land, they're grading the land, clearing it, grading it, getting it pad ready, putting all the utilities in place, and giving it to the company. That's about $30 to $40 million worth of an incentive before you're even talking about tax incentives. So those other states are really kicking us when it comes to that, because in Georgia we are not doing that. So if we're going to be competitive in the future, the state's going to have to spend more money partnering with local communities. That's going to make it difficult when tax revenues are down. So we may or may not win any more of those in the future. You may ask yourself, well, how did we get Kia? Andrews, I don't know if you know the story. I'll tell you real quick. The CEO of that company that also owns Hyundai was going to Birmingham, flew in Atlanta, and then they were going to drive to Birmingham for a meeting about a new plant in Birmingham. Tornadoes over in the Birmingham area. So he says, well, let's just go to the Hyundai plant down in Montgomery, and then we'll drive up to Birmingham. They're on the interstate driving south, and he says, well, what's all this land? And they pull off the side of the road, they call the state of Georgia, and they say, what's all this land we see down here at West Point? I like it, he says. I want to look at it. They shoot down there like that, and what do we know? We got a Kia plant in Georgia. It was not on their radar to build a Kia plant in Georgia, but it happened just like that. So we got lucky, right? Very lucky. I do think it's the presidential election's going to can help us or hurt us. We all kind of, I think, understand how that works. The more regulations, the higher your taxes, the less companies are likely to expand and grow. We like to think we are pro-business in our community, and for the most part, we are. Sometimes our municipalities are not always easy to deal with. They got their own regulations, and sometimes companies get a little irritated with that. But most part, we do okay with that. And our taxes are pretty reasonable compared to most other, especially the Northeast and out West. You know, our taxes are far greater. And I'll sum it up by saying this. my prediction in the future is that we're going to hold our own in Walton County. We're going to do okay. I don't know if we're going to win the big projects again. We've already won some pretty significant ones. But personally, I like to diversify that. I'd rather have 10 $100 million projects than $1 billion project. And the main reason for that is, like I said in the very beginning, it diversifies our economy even more. So when we have a tough time like we've had with COVID, some companies are down, some are up, and it helps protect us overall when we do that. Our greatest problem facing the future for Walton County, and I've said this every year since I've been here, water and sewer. We've got water. We don't have a way to move water. That's our problem with the water side. And we don't have, well, we don't have a way to move it, and we don't have the capacity to treat it. So we have a beautiful reservoir at the fishing lake right now, because we can't treat it, and we can't move that water. And then the flip side of that is the sewer. For these large industries, they require a lot of sewer, and we don't have a way to treat that sewer. The majority of our big industries are going to be in the south end of this county, where the weakest water and sewer plant is that we have. They have no capacity to grow it hardly, and even if they do grow it a little bit and try and expand on it, it's not going to be enough to support the industries that we've been able to at least get our eyes on, get them looking here in Walton County. That's not a cheap fix. It's an expensive problem that we've got. We're just going to have to decide what do we want? What do we want to be? Do we want those companies? Do we want those jobs and investment or not? And if we do, how do we solve that problem? And it's a big one. It's a real big problem. Plus, we got a reservoir where we got a lot of debt on it. So investing more into that, what do you do? So I don't have the answer to that. Fortunately, that's elected officials' problem to solve. I can tell them what the problem is. They have to figure out how to solve it.
Good morning. My name's Steve Brown. I'm the historian with Monroe Museum, a couple of blocks up the street here. We're down on Davis Street, and we're going to do what I'm calling a virtual history tour. We're going to talk about some things here on Davis Street that involve the history of Monroe. This is the first time we tried this, so we'd like to know what you think of it. I've done walking tours through Monroe, but the way the climate is now and social distancing and all that, we thought we'd give this a try. I'm here with Paul Mullins, who is my producer and cameraman, and he's helping me out. I would like to mention a little about the museum. The museum is closed at the present time because of the situation, but it caught us in a bad time because we were in the process of opening 3 new galleries and restructuring 2 other galleries. So all that's on hold. Now we are working in the background, and we do hope to open this fall. We don't have a definite date yet, but when we get around to doing that, I promise you will be impressed by what's there. We're opening new galleries that deal with the governors that have lived in Monroe and Walton County. We're opening a much expanded Monroe Girls Corps gallery, and we're opening a military and veterans gallery. And we're restructuring our early Monroe history gallery and adding Michael Etchison back in, and doing a couple other things that with Anita Sands and some things that I think you're going to find interesting. But this morning we're going to talk about some history here on Davis Street. All right, we're going to begin by talking about the railroads in Monroe, and there's not a much more convoluted story than Monroe's history with the railroad. Okay, the first train came to Monroe in 1880, and that was a Walton railroad train, and it was on a 10-mile track from Monroe to Social Circle. Social Circle was on the Georgia Railroad line, and so the line ran through Social Circle from Augusta to Atlanta, and of course there was a lot of railroad traffic on that. They built this spur line, Walton Railroad, to Monroe so passengers could go back and forth as well as freight and all that. And shortly after that, after 1880, this depot was built. Now when it was built, it was wooden, and many years later they came back and bricked it over, and it's also been restored. I think by Andy Malcolm did that, and did a great job. But where we're standing right now is where the train tracks used to be. If Paul would turn and look down the other way, see those tracks that are still there. They're not in use right here, but the tracks are still there. In 1884, the Gainesville, Jefferson, and Southern Railroad built tracks from Gainesville to Monroe. So that completed, there was another railroad in Gainesville that went perpendicular to that track. But anyway, now you had train tracks from Gainesville to Social Circle, where they tied up with the Georgia Railroad, which went throughout the state. The problem was the Gainesville, Jefferson, and Southern Railroad was a narrow gauge railroad, which was the predominant gauge in the South, especially before the Civil War. After the Civil War, they started changing those. So you had train tracks running from Gainesville to Social Circle, but in Monroe, the tracks were narrow gauge from Monroe to Gainesville. They were standard gauge from Monroe to Social Circle. So if you were shipping any type of freight or whatever from Gainesville to Social Circle, when it got to Monroe, you had to take it off the train, put it on another train to get it to Social Circle. And so it created quite a bottleneck. In 1885, the Gainesville, Jefferson, and Southern Railroad purchased the Walton Railroad between Monroe and Social Circle, and they changed that to narrow gauge also, so that moved the bottleneck to Social Circle. Now, let's see, in 1913, the last narrow gauge track was actually taken up just about where we're standing right here, and after that everything was standard gauge. But it didn't really last long. In 1913, they stopped passenger travel between Monroe and Social Circle. That was replaced by bus. And then in 1947, the Gainesville Midland, which was the name the railroad had taken after reorganization, they abandoned their tracks from Gainesville to Monroe. So the importance of railroad dwindled after that. However, I would point out, when the railroad came to Monroe, it had been just a sleepy village up until then, but railroad was the lifeblood of the town, and citizens and entrepreneurs in Monroe had worked and fought for years to try to get the railroad here, and sure enough, when the railroad arrived, even as convoluted and all as it was, it created a boom in business, and Monroe's first big spurt of growth was in the late 1800s, around 1890 to 1900 and all, and a lot of that can be attributed to the influence of the railroad here. Now, we've talked about this depot that's here, but if Paul will go a little to his left, and you can see this shrubbery or trees, weeds, whatever. In that area there was another railroad depot, and it was the Greene County Depot. It was a wooden depot, and it was built by the Greene County Railroad, and the president of the Greene County Railroad had the colorful name of Forrest Greene. And Mr. Forrest Greene was a man of means. He did or helped a lot of civic endeavors here in Monroe, but his railroad never made any money, and it never made it to Greene County. It stopped in Appalachia. So it was the Greene County Railroad, but it didn't go to Greene County. Now, the building you're looking at now is just a little square brick building that's right behind. We were just talking about the Greene County Vault, and the Greene County Depot, and that would be behind where the camera is now. This is the Greene County Vault, and as I pointed out, Greene County Railroad never made any money, so the vault didn't hold money. But somebody told me one time that their father worked for Oaks Hardware, and they would come over here and pick up dynamite and other, I guess, dangerous things that came in on the railroad, and it was stored in this vault. I think that was probably after Greene County gave up the ghost. But so it was a vault more for things that would be dangerous if they weren't locked up, rather than for money. Egypt has its great pyramids, but they have nothing on Monroe, because we have our pyramid here. And you might say, well, what is that and where did it come from? Well, it was a storage house for cottonseed, and it was built in the early 1940s. Originally, there was a warehouse here which burned in 1943, and shortly after that, this storage house, pyramid, whatever you want to call it, was built to replace it. And you can imagine this being full of cottonseed. But going back further, this property, and this goes all the way up to Church Street and what we call now the town green or the city green, and all that whole block has had a history connected with cotton and fertilizer. And this started in 1889 when some entrepreneurs came together, and for the first time in the city's history, they formed a corporation. Before then, if a business opened, it was usually a man who put forth his capital and started a business. But in 1889, a group of businessmen came together and formed the Monroe Guano Company. Now, a lot of you may be saying, what is guano? Well, guano is fertilizer made from bat and seabird droppings, which you would think wouldn't be that easy to get a hold of, but apparently they were. And and by the way, in Monroe, it's never been called guano. It's always called guana. So the Monroe Guana Company started business right here where we're standing now, and then they evolved into first the Monroe Oil and Fertilizer Company, where the cottonseed that was stored would be pressed and the cottonseed oil extracted, and the cottonseed hulls ground into cottonseed meal and fertilizer mix. So it all had to do with cotton, which was king in Walton County for decades and decades.
Creative artists can offer you a wide range of video production. Call the experts and discuss your project today, whether it's your special event or your company. Creative Artist, 770-267-7368. Creative Artist produces this program you're watching. Call Creative Artist today, 770-267-7368. Creative Artist. They'll put you in the spotlight.